Okay guys, so today I promised you that I would make a video for you reviewing the area and perimeter practice that you did today and the ones that you needed to complete doing your flex time today. So this is that review. If there are some that we already understand or we already did together and you know how to do them, feel free to fast forward to the number that you need to. So I'm going to start off with number 1, and going into GoFormative, this is how it shows up for you. So I'm going to click on Show Your Work, and here is Task 1. So Task 1 says Mrs. Wimmer-Hodger got a new rectangular rug for her classroom. The width is 5 yards and the length is 4 yards. What is the area of the rug? So I always start off with pulling out and highlighting the important information in the task. So what we needed to know is, 1, she got a new what kind of rug? That's right, a rectangular rug. So we want to make sure that we know that the shape that we need to be thinking about is what we know about rectangles. And we know that the width of it is 5 yards, and we know that the length of it is 4 yards. So all of that is information I got in the task. And then when I paid attention to the question, it asks, what is the area? And there's that keyword, area. And what I remember about area is that area equals length times width. So as long as I can do that, then I'll be able to figure it out. Now, for this problem, you really don't have to draw it, but I do like to draw sometimes because it helps me to see it. So I can pull out and draw my rectangle. And then I'm going to label it. I know that the width is 5 yards, and I know that the length is 4 yards. So I have a visual here if I need it, but knowing that area equals length times width, I can fill in the A with what I know the area is. I don't know the area. That's what the question asked me to figure out. So I'm going to put a question mark there. But it equals the length times the width. And if I look in the task, it tells me the length was 4 yards. So length is 4, and I have to multiply it by the width. The task tells me the width is 5. I'm going to multiply that by 5. And I know that 4 times 5 is 20. Therefore, the area of this rectangle is 20, and I have to include my label, yards. So area equals 20 yards for number 1 is what you should have. And moving on to number 2. Here's task 2, and again I'm going to pull out that important information. There is water damage in the boys' restroom. Rock Hill School District wants to replace some tiles in the bathroom. The length is 3 feet and the width is 6 feet. What is the area of the space that needs to be replaced? So the question I have to answer is, what is the area? Again, I know that area equals length times width. So if I go back in the task, I can see that they told us that the length is 3 feet. And I can see that they told us the width is 6 feet. So I can draw it out if I need to, but really I have all the information I need to plug into this formula that we've learned. So it asks me what area is. I don't know what area is, but what I do know is that the length equals 3, and the width equals 6, and 3 times 6 equals 18. Therefore, the area of this shape, the area of the space that needs to be replaced would be 18, and they were measured in feet, so 18 should be square feet, or feet squared. There we go, 18 squared feet. Okay, moving on to task 3. Over winter break, the hallway was waxed. The length of the hallway is 32 yards, and the width is 2 yards. What is the area of the floor? So again, we have this question, what is the area? And we know that the 32 yards is the length and 2 yards is the width. And so I simply plug that into my formula, knowing that I have to multiply the length and the width, and I have to do 32 times 2. Now, a lot of kids said, oh, I don't remember, know how to multiply large numbers. But we did learn how to multiply a large number by using the distributive property. So I can take 32 and break 32 up into 30 and 2. So 30 is 30 plus 2. would equal 32. And I need to multiply that by the number 2. So this is what my equation will look like now. So I have to take each part of what I broke up, which is the 30 and the 2 that I need to multiply by. And I also need to take this 2 here and multiply it by 2. So when I break this up, I get 30 times 2, which equals 60. And I'm going to add it to the 2 times 2, which is 4. And 60 plus 4 would give me 64, which means that the area of the floor would equal 64, and we were measuring yards, so it would be 64 squared yards. Okay, moving on now to task 4. Task 4 was a challenge, so it's okay if this one is a little bit harder for you, because it's supposed to be a challenge. So it says, over winter break, the stage was waxed. The area of the stage is 28 square yards. If the length is 4 yards, what is the width of the stage? So what we're trying to figure out is what is the width. Things that we know from the task is that the area is given to us. It already tells us the area is 28 square yards. And then it tells us that the length is 4 yards. And this is one of those problems where I say it's good to draw it so that you can see what you're doing. So we're going to make us a stage. A stage is like a rectangle shape. And we're going to fill in the information we already know. We know that the area of the stage is 28 square yards. So I'm going to go ahead in the center and put what area equals. It equals 28 square yards. The other thing that we know is the length is 4 yards. So we're going to come out here and fill that information in. What we don't know is the width. That's what they're asking us to figure out. Now you may say, well, I know that we've learned the formula for area, and area equals length times width. And let's spell that correctly. So if I plug in what I know, which is I know the area, it was given to me. They told me 28 square yards. And that is supposed to be equal to the length, which is 4. And we have to multiply that by the width. But we don't know the width. So let's fill that in with the question mark. So this is what the equation looks like when I plug in the numbers. This should look familiar because this is an unknown in a multiplication problem. And we did this earlier in the year. So when I look at this unknown in a multiplication problem, I'm missing a factor. So that means I know the large number and I'm missing one of the small numbers. And the way I get a smaller number when multiplication is involved is to divide. That's right, I do the opposite. So based on the numbers we have to make a division problem. And the division problem is going to say 28 divided by the factor we know, which is 4. And whatever that equals will tell us what the missing number in this fact family is. So I can count by 4s until I get to 28. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. And it took me 7 times to get there. So 28 divided by 4 equals 7, which means that the missing number in this fact family is 7. And when I plug that back into the formula that I'm using, that means the width is going to be 7. And what are they measuring in? Yards. So what is the width of the stage? The width of the stage is, the width equals 7 yards. And that's how you solve this challenge. Awesome work. Now let's move on to task 5. Task 5 has several problems in this one. If it appears small to you, click on your magnifying glass and make it bigger so you can work with it. And pay attention to the directions, because this is where I saw some students mess up. This doesn't ask us to do the area anymore. It's asking us to do the perimeter. Good. What is perimeter? Perimeter is adding all the sides. So for this task, we simply have to go around and add all the sides. So here I see 3, and I have 2. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 more is 7, plus 1 more makes this 8. 8 centimeters, and it's already marked for us. Now on these 3 examples that are left, they don't have the measurements. But what they do is they have squares for us to count. So if we label it as we go, we'll know. So when I count here, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the top. So if this side is 6, that means the bottom of it is going to be 6. And then when I count the sides, I have 1, 2. And if this side is 2, the opposite side is equal. So it's going to be 2. So here I have it labeled now. And I have 6 plus 6 is 12. 2 more makes 14. 2 more makes 16. So the perimeter of this shape will be 16. And I'm going to move that down a little bit. It's up in the air in a weird spot. If you'll let me move it, there we go. Okay, on to the third example. Again, we have another shape not labeled, so I'm going to label it while I count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the top. And the side has 1, 2, 3. And if the top is 5, the opposite and congruent side would be 5. And if this side is 3, the opposite side will be congruent, and it will be 3. And when I go to add this up, I have 5 plus 5 is 10, and 3 plus 3 is 6, and 10 plus 6 is, you got it, 16. Notice that these shapes both have a perimeter of 16, but they are in different shapes. One is a long rectangle, and one is kind of a little stumpy fat rectangle. But they both have a perimeter of 16. So this shows you that 2 shapes can have the same perimeter and not be the same shape. Okay, let's go down to 4. And this one is a little bit more difficult because it's not in a rectangle, but we use the same thinking. We have to label all the sides and add them up for perimeter. So this side has 1. So I'm going to put a little 1 here. And when I count down this side, it has 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to label this side 4. And I'm going to count down here. 1, 2, 3. So this little side has 3. And then this side has 1. And when I count here, 1, 2. So to go over is 2. And then I have to count up. 1, 2, 3. And I'm back at the top, which I had already labeled 1. So now we need to add up all our sides. So I know 3 and 1 make 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. I can add this 2 in here. That would give me 10. And 1 and 3 makes 4. So 10 plus 4 is 14. So this shape has a perimeter of 14 units. And that's how you find perimeter for these. Okay, moving on to the other task we have. Number 6. I typed this one out because the task seemed kind of blurry. So this one again tells us to find the perimeter. So we have to remember that perimeter is adding all the sides. And we're adding a side of a rectangle that is 5 inches long and 4 inches wide. So this is one where I kind of want to draw it out. I'm going to warn you, here's the mistake a lot of students make. They will draw their rectangle. They'll say, oh, it's 5 inches long, so we're going to label it 5 inches long. And it is 4 inches wide. And I'm going to label it 4 inches wide. And they stop. Did you catch that mistake? In perimeter, you have to add up all the sides. So even though 2 measurements were given, this is a 4-sided shape, a quadrilateral. So in order for me to find perimeter, I have to have 4 measurements, 1 for each side. So you have to use what you know about a rectangle. What we do know is that if this side is 5 inches, the opposite side is also what? Good. It is also 5 inches. And if this side is 4 inches, the opposite side is congruent. It's going to be also 4 inches. Very good. It's equal and congruent. So now we have all 4 measurements for a 4-sided quadrilateral shape, and we can add them up. 5 plus 5 is 10. 4 plus 4 is 8. And 10 plus 8 is, that's right, it has a perimeter of 18 inches because that's what we were measuring in inches. Moving on to the next one, number 7. Let's show our work. I opened up number 7, and it was kind of blurry, so again, I typed this one out for you. But it asks you to find a perimeter of a square whose sides are 3 feet long. So the information I needed was one, that I'm looking for the perimeter and that the sides are 3 feet long. So I wanted to see it, so I wanted to sketch it out. So I put out a square and I needed to label each side 3 feet. So if this side is 3 feet, but I noticed that they only gave me one measurement. But again, this is a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides. So in order to find the perimeter, I need 4 measurements. What I know about a square, though, is if this side is 3 feet, all the sides are equal, so they all have to be 3 feet. So I'm going to label all my sides 3 feet. And now I have labeled all the sides, I can add them to figure out what the perimeter is. So 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 more is 12 feet. So the perimeter of this square would be 12 feet. Okay, moving on to the next task. So number 8, I'm going to open up number 8. Again, if it's kind of small, get your zoom in glass and you can zoom in a little bit. And when I go and look at the directions, it says to me up here that I have to find the area of each figure. Now we know area has a formula, but we also know when area has squares, simply count the squares, guys. So they give you the squares, you can count them. So there's 2 here, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. The area of this is 12 square units. I can count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 on each row. This looks like an array, so I'm going to count by 6 3 times. 6, 12, 18. Again, we have equal columns, equal rows. That's an array. I can count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there are 4 rows. 7 times 4 is 28. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 rows of 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16 square units. Okay, moving on to our next task. Number 9. There are actually 2 tasks in here, so we're going to do both of them. Maggie has 24 feet of fencing. Circle the choice that would fence in the least area. So Maggie has 24 feet of fencing. That's important to know. And then we have to circle the choice that would fence in the least area. And then they give us 2 choices. We're going to have to try both of them. But we also have to remember what area is. Area equals length times width. So in this problem, it's telling me that she has 24 feet of fencing. That means she went to the store, she went to buy stuff to make a fence, she bought enough stuff to make 24 feet of fencing. In order for her to know which one is going to fence in the least amount of area, we're going to have to try both choices. With area is length times width, the first one she has is 4 times 8. So if I come under here and I do 4 times 8, 4 times 8 equals 32, and she would have to have, wait a minute, no. Yes. She would have 4 feet wide and 8 feet long, sorry. So I would do the length, which is 8 times 4. 8 times 4, 4 times 8 equals 32. So she would have 32 square feet of fencing if she goes this way. If she goes the second choice, she has 6 feet long, which I'm going to multiply by 6 feet wide. And that would leave us 36 square feet of fencing. So when I look at both of those choices, which one is the least? Good, 32 is. So that is the one I would circle. Ooh. Well, maybe I won't circle it that way because that's weird. So I'm going to click on there and I'm going to get rid of this circle that I do not want there. And I'm going to just use my draw pen and I'm going to scribble in and circle that I think she should go with this 4 feet wide and 8 feet long to get that's the least. Okay, number 18. Corey made a rectangle with 4 rows of 6 tiles. What is the perimeter of his rectangle? So I'm going to get out a rectangle because it says Corey made a what? He made a rectangle. The important information I need is that it has 4 rows of 6. Now I could sit here and I could draw the 4 rows of 6, but I am at the point where we can just label, right? So he has 4 rows. That would be here, right? 4 rows would go here. And 6 tiles in each row, 6 would go here. So if I want the perimeter, I just have to fill in the other information. Where if there are 4 on this side, what's going to be on this side? Good, it's going to still have 4 rows. And if there's 6 columns up here, then there's going to be, right, 6 columns down here. So now I've labeled all my sides and I just add them up. 12 plus 4 and 4 is 8. So 12 and 8 make, that's right, 20, 20 units around, because we added up all the sides. Okay, moving on to the very last one you have to do, task 10. There's only one here, and it is exactly like number 17. So Mark has 20 feet of fencing to put around a chicken pen. Circle the measurements of the pen that would have the greater area. So in this task, we're looking for the greater area. So we're going to do the same thing. We know what area is. Area is length times width. So we're going to multiply length times width, which is 4 times 6, or 6 times 4. 6 times 4 equals 24 square feet. And then if I do 5 feet wide, 5 feet long, I have to multiply 5 times 5, which equals 25 squared feet. And when I look at both of these, I'm looking for the one that has the greater measurement. Or which one's greater? Right, 25 is greater than 24. So I am going to circle the one that has the greater area, which is 25. Failed. And that was the end of it. So I hope that that helps you out a little bit. If there's any that gives you a really hard time, feel free to send me a message on Canvas. And if not, I hope you had a good time studying for your test and that you feel prepared to master area and perimeter tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
Hi guys! If you liked today's video, make sure you click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Divalicious Education for more videos to help you learn as a student or grow